Next, we need to make a prediction about our blood vessels. In order to do this, I recommend using a probe. The blunt probe is nice for this. We don't want to poke anything on the inside of the heart. It sounds gross, but we are going to stick the probe down the blood vessel. It should go through a valve. And when we stick it into the heart, we're able to tell the direction of where the probe is going. So this probe is currently moving down into our left ventricle. From the left ventricle, we are pumping oxygenated blood through the aorta to the rest of the body. So if our prediction is correct, this should be the aorta here. However, sheep aortas are a little bit different from human aortas. Sheeps have one tube branching out of the aorta. This would actually become the descending aorta. So we know the descending aorta wraps down on the posterior side of the heart and will send blood to structures like the legs and the abdominal area. But the ascending aorta here has the brachiocephalic trunk, and we have a brachiocephalic trunk. It's the first branch branching off of the aortic arch, but this is the only branch branching off of the aortic arch on a sheep heart. So we have three. I'm actually going to show it on a model I have. So we have here the aortic arch, and on humans we have these three branches. Number 9 pointing to the brachiocephalic blood vessel, which then eventually splits into two. We have the right common carotid giving blood to the brain, and the right subclavian bringing blood to the arm, the right arm. And then 10 and 11 are already broken into their two branches. So 10 is the left common carotid going through the neck to the head, and the 11 here is the left subclavian bringing blood to the arm. So on a sheep heart, we just have one tube coming out, and that has multiple branches for the sheep. Okay, so this is the aorta. A little trick you can do with your sheep heart is you can stick the probe in, and you should be able to have it go through both tubes because these are, of course, connected. So this is our descending aorta, and this is the brachiocephalic artery branching off of that aortic arch. If we feel confident enough in our prediction, we are going to take red food coloring. I'm going to use a dropper to put that food coloring into our oxygenated aortic blood vessel here. Then when we go ahead and open up our heart, we will be able to see if our prediction was correct. Now let's see if we can locate some other blood vessels. So I'm going to take my probe again, and this looks like a nice blood vessel. I'm curious if these two are connected, and they are. So let's see where this one leads to. Notice that this one is branching up and hugging the aorta. That's a clue. Okay, so now that I've got my probe in here, you can imagine the probe going to the right ventricle. So the right side of our heart is carrying deoxygenated blood, and the right ventricle specifically needs to pump or contract the cardiac muscle to pressurize the blood enough to send it to the lungs. So if this is correct and our prediction is right, this should be the pulmonary trunk branching into our right and left pulmonary veins. On a sheep heart, we actually have a few more branches. So you'll notice there's this tube here that's connected and this tube here that's also connected. Another thing I want to point out is this structure here. This is our ligamentum arteriosum. So it is not a tube. It is closed up. It's attaching the pulmonary trunk to the aorta. It is thought to be a remnant of the fetal ductus arteriosus. In the adult sheep, it's just attaching the pulmonary trunk to the aorta. And we actually have this in humans as well. I'm going to go ahead and take my blue food coloring and put it down the pulmonary veins. I'm going to go ahead and just do the right and left one. Of course, they're both connected, but I want to make sure there's enough food coloring down in there so that we can see it when we open up the heart. The next thing I want to find is the superior and inferior vena cava. These are the upper and lower veins that return deoxygenated blood back to the heart after it has just made the round trip, delivering oxygen to every cell of the human body. Of course, not the lungs, but everything else. So these should bring blood to our right atrium. So if this is our right atrium, we can flip our heart over to the posterior side and get a look at some blood vessels that might go to the right atrium. So I automatically see a pretty large one here. If I stick my probe in, I can actually see my probe through that auricle, the right auricle / right atrium. So this is going to be the superior vena cava. And then I also see this tube back here. In diagrams, you sometimes just see in a two-dimensional structure the inferior vena cava looking like a tube back here. But you can see where that tube has been cut off. Okay, here we go. So we can see the superior vena cava here, inferior vena cava here, and we know that both of these tubes are leading to the right atrium, being right here. Superior vena cava taking blood from the upper half of the body above the diaphragm, and the inferior vena cava returning blood from the lower half of the body below the diaphragm back to the right side of our heart. The pulmonary veins are carrying deoxygenated blood back to the body. In the human heart, we have 4 of them returning to our left atria here, but you can see this very large tube here in the sheep heart. You've also got these smaller tubes, which if we use our probe, they connect, meaning that they all lead to the same place. Here's one here as well. We are going to do a frontal coronal cut, so this is